I think someone told me recently that being a patient in the US is a full-time job, and I understand that. Actually, growing up not in the US healthcare ecosystem, when I told my friends that we're automating scheduling and managing appointments for patients, they were like, well, why can't they just do it from their app?
New choices, new players, new models of care. You know consumer-first healthcare is everywhere. For us to build the future, to see what's new, we gotta look at the world from a different point of view. Consumer innovation ain't going away. I say it's here to stay. Today it leads the way. We gotta drop the silos. We're all the same team. Experience, business, tech, and marketing. So join us now. Join the revolution. Consumer-first health is the evolution. Status quo or like status no. Yeah, this is the healthcare rap. Yo, come on, let's go.
Welcome back to the leading podcast about consumer-centered health. We highlight innovators who are bridging the gap between sick care and well care, influencing change in the industry, and empowering consumers with cool new ways to engage in their health and wellness. We're also having some fun along the way. I'm Jared Johnson, and this is episode 463. Today we have the flavor of the week about Amazon pharmacy kiosks. Can such a simple solution meaningfully bridge care gaps? And can the rest of the industry turn this kind of convenience into better outcomes? I'll talk about that. Then Israel Krush, CEO and co-founder of Hyro, dives deep into taking shared responsibility for consumer engagement, the significance of proactive patient care, and he does an admirable job when I ask him to explain Agentic AI to a third grader. It's time for the awesomeness, y'all. Are you ready? Let's go. Flavor of the week. Amazon's back at it, this time reimagining pharmacy access. On October 8th, Amazon announced pharmacy kiosks, which are just what they sound like. Physical kiosks deployed in doctors' offices to help patients get medications immediately after appointments, closing a critical gap in care. Starting in December, they'll roll out these self-service kiosks inside select One Medical offices in the Los Angeles area to let patients pick up prescriptions right after their appointments. The process appears to be pretty simple. You start by creating an Amazon pharmacy account, then you schedule an appointment at any participating One Medical location and ask your provider to send your prescription to Amazon Pharmacy. At checkout in the Amazon app, you select kiosk pickup and pay with your preferred method. Then you get a QR code to scan at the kiosk to pick up your medication. An Amazon pharmacist reviews your medication and then it will be ready for pickup within minutes. The inventory will be tuned for each clinic's prescribing patterns, but it won't include medications that require refrigeration or certain controlled substances. What's the consumer lens? From the patient or consumer viewpoint, this is a meaningful leap in convenience and adherence. Consider the fact that nearly 1/3 of U.S. prescriptions are never filled, and roughly half of medications for chronic conditions aren't taken as prescribed. Those are big numbers. And by collapsing the office visit to pharmacy visit gap, Amazon's reducing friction. Less time, fewer extra stops, and a lower risk of drop-off. For the consumer who left the doctor's office with a go fill that script message but never quite made it, there's pretty much only upside here. The prescription's in your hand before you walk out the door of your clinic. Plus you can check costs in advance, you can use a virtual pharmacist consult, and you can bypass the traditional retail pharmacy queue. Plus for consumers in so-called pharmacy deserts or those with mobility or transport challenges, having medication available immediately at the point of care is a meaningful accessibility win. Now there are caveats. It's currently pilot region only, so in the LA area, and the kiosk inventory is curated and limited. It's not all drugs, there are no cold chain meds, and there's no full retail pharmacy scope. So for complex prescriptions or specialty drugs, the traditional pharmacy or Amazon delivery still applies. Still, for the next day starter of a new treatment, the convenience factor may drive higher fill rates, faster onset of therapy, and improved adherence. For marketers, health systems, payers, and pharma, the message is loud and clear. Location matters, friction kills adherence, and bundling care visits and dispensing may become a competitive differentiator. Oh, and by the way, Amazon's going to keep reinventing in this industry, and you can too if you understand your consumers as well as they do. Let's all lean in here and figure out how we can turn this kind of convenience into better outcomes, higher adherence, and ultimately less waste in care. That's another way that we'll build the healthcare of tomorrow. And that's the flavor of the week.
Healthcare Wrap is sponsored by Xero. Whether you're trying to drive patient volume as a healthcare provider, boost membership enrollment as a health insurer, drive improved adherence rates in pharma, or deepen strategic B2B partnerships throughout the healthcare ecosystem, Xero can help you with your go-to market efforts and growth targets, enabling you to reach the clinical and financial goals of your healthcare organization. For more information, go to Xero.com. That's CYRALL.com.
flow.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to get into our conversation today. Let's get to the flow. Please give it up for my guest today. I'm here with Israel Krush, CEO and co-founder of Hyro. Israel, welcome to the Healthcare Wrap.
Thank you so much, Jared. Happy to be here.
I think this conversation will help our listeners understand a little bit about even some, what we might consider basic definitions of like agentic AI, so things that are evolving really quickly. Let me start by letting our listeners get to know you a little bit better. I want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Israel. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hyro. My background isn't in healthcare. So I'm actually a computer scientist by training. Studied computer science and statistics. I like to say machine learning before it was called machine learning. And really throughout my career, I dealt with human-computer interaction, or HCI, or how we as humans interact with technology. And you can understand like with Hyro that creates voice and chat AI agents for large and complex health systems. Basically, it's now thinking about like this next evolution of HCI, which I'm sure that we're going to talk a lot about, which would be the AI agents to human type of interaction, and doing that in such a highly complex and regulated industry such as healthcare. And thinking about the patient perspective, about the provider-physician perspective, about the health system perspective that might be even different is just such an amazing challenge. So while I didn't grow in healthcare, I like to say I fell in love in the industry, and that people start laughing who falls in love in the US healthcare industry. And I think that like the subtlety to this is that I fell in love with the problems that I see in the industry, and my belief that many of them can be solved with good voice and chat AI agents.
I believe that as well. So for those who aren't familiar with Hyro itself, what problems are you looking to solve there? And how do you incorporate the consumer point of view into what you've been building?
Right. So our mission is to basically increase patient access to care while also improving the operational excellence of the health system that we work with, and doing that mostly with what we call responsible AI agents. So I think that one way that I'd say like the main way that today patients communicate with their providers, with their health systems is via the call center. Believe it or not, we're talking a lot about like digital front doors and digital tools and mobile applications. Still, the majority of patients today call their providers, call their health systems. So when thinking about that, what are they calling about? Well, believe it or not, the number one call driver, and we've surveyed over 20 million patients across the US, and obviously we have our own data from conversations with patients, is around appointment management and scheduling. And so appointment management, it's verifying, canceling, rescheduling appointments, and scheduling like it's, you got a referral, you need to schedule, whether this is like to a specialist or just like a regular PCP visit. So heavy focus on scheduling and appointment management, but really to broaden this, it's around those administrative, repetitive, mundane calls that health systems get to the call center, where many of them can be just automate and create also more delightful patient journey and patient experience. But as I said, also great operational efficiencies for the health system.
I would think anyone listening will be like, yes, we want everyone to do better at the things you just described, everything from the appointment management to some of these other mundane administrative tasks as you're referring to them. Why is this such a hard problem to solve? Why is this whole like patient engagement and re-engagement area so hard?
I think someone told me recently that being a patient in the US is a full-time job. And I understand that. Now I understand that. So actually growing up not in the US healthcare ecosystem, when I told my friends that we're automating scheduling and managing appointments for patients, they were like, well, why can't they just do it from their app? And now you need to explain to them like all of the complexity and legacy history of the US healthcare ecosystem with providers, with payers, with pre-authorization, right? With dozens and hundreds of decision trees, which are basically like fancy names to say, how do we determine what is the visit type required for a patient? And then what are the physicians that can actually help this patient with this visit type, and then find out like the availability of this physician based on the preferences of the patient. Doesn't sound really complex, but again, think about like dozens, hundreds, in some organizations, thousands of different decision trees. And all of a sudden is, what's going on here? Like, how can we standardize that? It's so non-standardized. So I think that what we've done there is really like the legwork of mapping and understanding all of these workflows and the edge cases and this decision trees and the visit types, and understanding that if you're looking to go to your primary care physician for a specific issue that you have, but then you didn't do your annual checkup and you want to do the annual checkup, then you might need to have a different visit type with a different visit length, which again, just changes the entire availability and where you can schedule. So maybe all of that story to say it's less about the understanding piece, because large language models have become very good at understanding human language. It's more about really understanding and mapping the workflows and being able to trigger them into the other systems that are being used as part of the patient journey, like the EHR, like the physician directory, like the revenue cycle management systems.
Yeah, there are a lot of pieces here. Like at a basic level, how is AI making a difference? You just mentioned how LLMs are helping us understand some of those basics, but like at a basic level, how is AI kind of changing what's possible here?
Yeah, so I think that like one, it's just, how COVID came and all of a sudden digital transformation in healthcare advanced 10x. So I think that like with COVID, we had a worldwide pandemic. With AI, we have a worldwide phenomena, which is all of a sudden the CEOs and the boards of these large and complex health systems, which I remind you, like organizations that are here for decades, if not hundreds of years, tell them we can do things better and we can do things more efficient, and we're going to push you to do that. Even though this is a very complex and regulated industry, and even though that requires a lot of change management, we're going to do that because we have no other choice. At least like thinking about provider land, they have their own like financial issues with single digit margins, but then also they're losing patients or consumers to their competitors that are actually engaging with the patients in a better way. So, we're talking about like matching like the new patient expectations to a retail-like experience. And what does it mean? It does mean that the patient is a consumer in some way. It does mean that you need to engage with them in a personalized manner. It means that you need to be able to serve them on any channel at any time that they want. Being able to transfer between various channels depends on the task and the preferences, and really make healthcare way more personalized, not from like the medicine perspective, which is also a very big promise, but even from the journey perspective, because Jared might prefer to speak with people or with AI agents, and Israel might prefer to text them.
Hey y'all, I'm here with Sina Arham, founder of Friday's Health. Sina, what do you think is broken in the traditional approach to metabolic health, and what are you doing to flip the script?
Let's be honest, the moment in metabolic health is being driven by the GLP-1 receptor agonist class of medications, right? We finally have something that is addressing metabolic health, obesity, and type 2 diabetes in an elegant fashion, right? It's efficacious, it's manageable for patients. And so I think we're having our moment in metabolic health in that the old guard of tackling metabolic health and obesity has a lot of stigma attached to it, a lot of shame and blame and guilt.
Thanks, Sina. Visit joinfridays.com for more information and tell them you heard about it from the Healthcare Wrap. How do you explain something like agentic AI? How do you explain this in simple terms, like to a third grader, of what agentic AI does in healthcare?
Yeah, I wanted to use the word deterministic versus non-deterministic, but then you said the third grader. So I think that until now, machines were doing or were following exactly the instructions that the human told them. So let's take navigation for an example. The human told them turn left, turn right, turn left, then go 3 miles, then turn right, etc. All of a sudden, with Agentic, the human sets the goal or the task. This is what you need to do, and go figure it out by yourself. By go figure it out, like that's the instruction for the machine. So when we think about agentic flows, and again, like now it's not for the 3-year-old, it's really all of a sudden we moved from it's really binary and predetermined, and we know what the path can be, and we can actually create like a visio of that, to all of a sudden, this is the task. Potentially, these are some guardrails. So when I spoke about responsible AI agents, we can double down on that and go figure it out. And I think that with this premise and the technological advancement that we're seeing, that can really change a lot of our interactions with machines in the near future. I'm very excited about what's coming in healthcare, but also in various other areas in life.
Yeah, it's really changing the game. And when I think about, again, I always like to start with like what's possible now because of this change. What makes AI agents in healthcare, if we stick with that, what makes them different than things we've seen in the past, like chatbots and just other interfaces, like specific to kind of healthcare use cases or how healthcare organizations are using them right now?
Yes, I think that we've started with like the complexity, right? And in the past, like the chatbots were always failing you from like information retrieval standpoint. So you have so many different protocols, so many different symptoms, diseases, and the ability to now try to follow these protocols and try to really distill very specific information from a very large handbook was almost impossible. And that's why a lot of like chatbots failed in the past, especially in healthcare. Now with Gen AI agents, basically you can think about it as someone who read the entire book, can reference it and know it by heart, and can actually like even deduct some conclusions from it. I'm saying some because again, like the crazy thing about this like technology is that there is still so many unknowns with regards to how it is able to deduct those types of things, besides the fact that we fed it with a lot of data. And all of a sudden, once like you have this information retrieval piece, then connecting it to the transactional piece, by transactional, I mean being able to perform actions, being able to schedule appointments, put data into the EHR, to read data from the EHR, to follow a decision tree, to refill a prescription request. All of a sudden, like all of these use cases are possible. Not only that they're possible, but the AI can actually be proactive about them. So I gave the example of like annual checkups. Let's take a way more interesting example regarding mammogram testing. Being able to actually go through the EHR data set and patients' records and find the relevant patients that might need to do an annual mammogram test and flag it to them and proactively reach out to them on behalf of the health system to schedule this mammogram test. Well, first to make sure that they're eligible, because again, there's a workflow, and then schedule the mammogram test all end to end without the human in the loop. Think about like the number of mammograms that we can schedule now versus like in the past, and also optimize the schedule around that and reducing no-shows. And if we're proactive about it, take another use case, which is around reducing basically readmissions by conducting post-discharge calls. You're being hospitalized, you're being discharged, the nurse calls you to ask about like symptoms, pain levels, how are you doing? All of a sudden, like many of those tasks can be automated. And that's just going to bring like better patient journeys we talked about, but also better patient outcomes, which is at the end of the day, like we all want our healthcare ecosystem to be way better than it is today. And way better not because we don't have great doctors, we do. Way better because it's full-time job to be a patient.
It really is. So here's one example that I heard that Hyro launched a free AI agent to help hospitals with patient outreach. Tell us about that. Like, why'd you decide to make it available that way? What kind of results are you hoping to help them see as a result?
Yeah, 100%. So one, like it's really a lot about like the care gaps, right? The bridging of those care gaps. Take myself as an example. I'm a busy CEO. I take care of the company way better than I take care of my personal health. And I'm saying that unfortunately. And I'm thinking about like an AI agent that can actually nudge me and can actually help me be more healthy and do my annual checkup and do blood tests and follow up with them. And when my primary care physician gives me a referral, to actually make sure that I'm going to call and schedule this appointment with the specialist. So I think that what drives us here is really the patient outcome piece. Some of the side effects to that is one, the better engagement. Again, like being proactive, like all of a sudden it's not, you need to remember this is another task outside of like your busy life. And someone else is really like pushing you to do that, even if this someone else is an AI agent. And two, also from the health system side, that helps them with the ratings and making sure that they getting reimbursed. So like one of the pieces that we specifically highlighted in the past a couple of weeks was a new product launch called Armor, which, to your point, like it's about the proactive patient experience piece, which refers to the new changes with regards to Medicaid, Medicare, that are part of the Big Beautiful Bill. So as you know, the Big Beautiful Bill, it includes so many different sections about so many areas in our life. Some of them are related to healthcare, and some of them are related specifically to Medicaid. Who's considered, basically, and how many times, like a simple section would be the fact that instead of enrolling into Medicaid and proving that you're eligible once a year, you need to do it once every 6 months. So basically twice a year. Patients don't know that. Like most patients don't know that. Believe it or not, while most health systems know that, and I'm saying most, not all of them, it's not like they're going to act on that like yesterday. They're going to feel it like in a few years' time. So we said, you know what, we're going to get ahead of that, and we're going to educate patients about some of those changes and try to get them re-enroll and readmission or redetermine their enrollment into those programs to make sure that, one, they're covered, and two, that the health system gets paid or reimbursed for those patients. So I think that here's a clear win-win where you follow policy, basically. In this case, like the Big Beautiful Bill, you create an AI agent that is proactively helping both patients and health systems with issues that they face and make, again, the journey a little less complicated.
I like that. A little less complicated. We can't solve everything all at once, but that's the right direction. And that's the cadence we have to be shooting for in terms of innovation here. I like that. A little less complicated. I want to congratulate Hyro on your Series C funding. That's a big announcement. What vibe are you getting from investors where this area is headed?
Oh, as you can see from the news, first off, thank you so much. We're very happy with this capital raise, both the existing investors that double down on us, as well as the new investors. I think that for us, it was always about finding the right partners that believe in our mission and will drive us towards actually achieving it at scale. So it's really about how do we make Hyro an even bigger, more successful companies that is making a change, even if it's just making healthcare a little less complicated, right? Because I think that we need to understand the realities of things. And with that funding, basically, the idea is how can we find out more areas to engage better with our patients and mostly focus on this communication layer between patients and providers or health systems, which I believe is the most important piece out of this entire complex puzzle or journey of healthcare. So it's really about developing many, many more use cases and try to make the patient experience better.
It sounds like Hyro is going to be busy. I want to give you kind of a final word here and kind of help us wrap this whole conversation by asking you what gives you hope for what is coming next for the future of healthcare. What helps you kind of make your way through all the complexity that you described on your own behalf, on behalf of clients? What keeps you going through all that?
I think the fact that we are seeing the change. As they say that, the agriculture revolution took hundreds of years. The industry revolution took dozens of years. The information revolution took even less than that. And AI is kind of a new revolution that is moving at lightning speed. And that can be frightening, but it also means that we're going to see a positive change. And the fact that we're already seeing that, that's what keeps me going. And I think keeps me hopeful. And, by design, I need to stay optimistic. And I see the health systems embrace AI and embrace this new wave. Again, potentially even faster than they've embraced telehealth during COVID, which is amazing to see in an industry such as healthcare. And I do believe that at the end of the day, this positive change is not only on the engagement piece, it's on our own outcomes as patients, meaning you and I are going to be healthier, we're going to live longer, and we're going to take care of ourselves better and see doctors better and get personalized engagement from the health system that will enable us all to do that. So I am optimistic about where the US healthcare industry is going, even though it started at a very strange place.
Yes, and that is a perfect place for us to wrap this conversation. Again, such a pleasure to hear where things are headed, what you're seeing. And Israel, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode. And thanks for everything you're doing to make healthcare consumer first. That's what this is all about.
Thank you so much, Jared. Really enjoyed the conversation.